Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Capitals and the courts. The heart of the Mughal Empire was its capital city, where the court assembled. The capital cities of the Mughals frequently shifted during the 16th and the 17th centuries. Frequent shipment was there. Babur took over the Lodi capital of Agra, though during the 4 years of his reign, the court was frequently on the move. 4 years he ruled over the country, but frequent shipment was done for the court. During the 1560s, Akbar had the fort of Agra constructed with red sandstone where from the adjoining regions. In the 1570s, he decided to build a new capital at Fatehpur Sikri. One of the reasons one of the reasons prompting this may have been that the Sikri was located on the direct road of Ajmer, where the Dargah of Sheikh Moinuddin Chishti had become an important pilgrimage center. Now also it is the very important for the everyone, not only for the Muslims but even for the Hindus also. Everyone they visit over there, and it is said that duaएं कबूल होती है. This is the main reason of the shipment of Akbar's capital from Agra to Fatehpur Sikri. This is the court of Akbar in Fatehpur Sikri. Enormous arched gateway, Buland Darwaja, was meant to remind visitors of the Mughal victory in Gujarat. After this, the victory over the Gujarat, this Buland Darwaja has been constructed. In 1585, the capital was transferred to Lahore to bring the northwest under greater control. Shah Jahan pursued sound fiscal policies and accumulated enough money to indulge his passion for building. Many of the buildings' architectural planning has been done during the period of Shah Jahan. In 1648, the court, army, and household moved from Agra to the newly completed imperial capital Shah Jahanabad with the name of the ruler Emperor Shah Jahan. It was a new addition to the old residential city of Delhi with the Red Fort, the Jama Masjid, a tree-lined esplanade with bazaars, that is Chandni Chowk. Nowadays also it is there in Delhi, and spacious homes for nobility. So these were the work done by Shah Jahan during his time period. Then it comes about that the Mughal courts. First of all, in this first part, we have just discussed about that the shipment of the capital cities, with that the new buildings, with the importance of the neighbors or the neighboring places, with the different motives, the different rulers they have shifted and constructed the new palace for the king. Now coming to the Mughal court, how it was working. The emperor began his day at sunrise with personal religious devotions or prayers, and then appeared on a small balcony known as Jharokha, facing the east, below a crowd of people, soldiers, merchants, craftspersons, peasants, women with sick children, waited for a view or darshan of the emperor. This way the importance of Jharokha was there, and the importance of the Mughal court was there. Jharokha darshan was introduced by Akbar with the objective of broadening the acceptance of the imperial authority as part of popular faith. After this, the emperor began the day at sunrise with personal religious devotions. After worshipping of their own god, the emperor come to the Jharokha. Jharokha darshan means that here he used to see the people who they are having any type of the trouble or problem. With this, what was the feeling inside the Akbar? Why he has introduced this Jharokha darshan? With the objective of broadening the acceptance of imperial authority as part of popular faith. How the people they have their faith, their trust in the ruler. After spending an hour at Jharokha, the emperor walked to the public hall, which is known as Diwan-e-Aam, to conduct the primary business of his government. State officials presented reports and made requests. So this work is done in the Diwane arm. 2 hours later, the emperor was in the Diwane Khas to hold private audiences and discuss confidential matters. Means that Diwane Khas, confidential matters, important matters are discussed. High ministers of states placed their petitions before him and tax officials presented their accounts. So such type of the discussions are done inside the Diwane Khas. This is the structure of Diwane Khas during the period of Akbar. On special occasions such as the anniversary of accession to the throne, Eid, Sabe Barat, which is full moon day of Shab in 14th, 8th month of Hijra era, their day sun in 14th, Shab in 14th, and the 8th month of the Hijra era, and Holi, the court was full of life. Even though the Holi was also been celebrated, it is one of the important festivals of Hindus. The Mughal king celebrated 3 major festivals in a year: the solar, the lunar birthdays of the monarch, and the Nowruz. Nowruz is actually the Iranian New Year on the vernal equinox. Equinox when the days and the nights are equal throughout the earth. On his birthday, the monarch was weighed against various commodities, which were then distributed in the charity. This is also the work done by the monarch, by the emperor. Then it comes about that the titles and the gifts offered by the emperor. The grand titles were adopted by the Mughal emperors at the time of coronation or after a victory over an enemy. The work is done. The grand titles were adopted. The granting of titles to men of merit was an important aspect of Mughal polity. With this, the merit, they are supposed to give the titles, to give them the award to this particular men who they are just having the distinguished merits in them. Titles could be earned by merit or by purchase. Now, 2 things are there. On the basis of this merit also, the men can get the titles, or on the basis of that, by the payment basis to purchase the title. Example is quoted over here. Mir Khan offered 1 lakh rupees for the word Alif, that is word Alf, to be affixed to his name to make it Amir Khan. So this way, this Mir Khan has purchased the title of Alf. For that he paid 1 lakh rupees. No any courtier they can approach empty-handed. Offering gifts was regarded as a sign of honor and respect in diplomatic relations. So no courtier approach empty-handed. Whenever they come to the court, they have to bring some of the gift or some amount to offer as a gift, regarded as a sign of honor that they are paying and giving honor, respect to their emperor in diplomatic relations. This is the part which we are coming to discuss is very important about that the Mughal officials, administrative system during the Mughal period, how it was followed by the Mughal rulers. This is Mansabdari system. The first of all we are coming to discuss under this is about Mansabdari system. There were more than 100 feudal chiefs under Akbar, mostly non-Muslims. Most of them, they were non-Muslims. The emperor could appoint any feudal chief as Mansabdar. Feudal means that the landlord. Feud means that land. It's a word. Feud is a word. Latin word which means land. This is the meaning of feud. So the feudal chiefs, the landlords, the land ownership during the period of Akbar, mostly they were the non-Muslims, and the emperor could appoint any feudal chief as Mansabdar. This rank of a chief was over and above his right to rule his territories. This is of a chief was over and above his right to rule his territories. This way, the feudal lords established a double relationship with the emperor. one that of a subordinate chief to rule over the territory, and the other that of a mansabdar. So this is about that the mansabdari system, and which was used by the and which was practiced during the period of Akbar. Next, it is coming about that Jagirdari system. The Jagirdari system, it was closely related to Mansabdari system. Both of this, Mansabdari system and Jagirdari system, they are closely related. Akbar realized that it was not possible for him to pay all the Mansabdars their salaries in cash. Cash payment was a bit difficult for Akbar. So what he did, so he assigned land to some mansabdars to collect land revenue from the farmers equal to their salaries in terms of money. So this is the work done by Akbar. What he did, he has appointed mansabdars to collect the land revenue from the farmers, which is just equal to their cash payment of the salary. And this assigned land was known as Jagir, and the assignees was known as Jagirdar. So this way this Jagirdari system was working. Both this Jagirdari and Mansabdari systems they are related to each other. Other than this, the concept of central government was also there in this Akbar's court. The other than this Jagirdari system, the another was the central government. Central government system was also there. What comes under this? It was the well organized central government system found in the Mughal administration. Akbar tried from time to time new experiments in every branch of administration. So what he is doing, though he was an absolute ruler and combined himself all the powers of the government, yet he was a benevolent despot. He had a council of ministers to advise him, but the ultimate decision rested with him. A complete group of that the council of ministers were working under him, but whole and sole power and the decision was taken by him only. In the beginning of Akbar's reign, Bahram Khan occupied the highest place among all his ministers. He had the designation of Wakil, or the chief minister of the Sultanate. He was much superior to other ministers in status and position. Here we are talking about Bahram Khan. On many occasions, Bahram Khan took decisions arbitrarily, even without the knowledge of the emperor. So that way he was so powerful. But in 1560, Akbar removed Bahram Khan from the post of Wakil. After the fall of Bahram Khan, the powers of the importance of Wakil's office began to decline. Akbar did not appoint any person as Wakil. Later, when he appointed Sahabuddin as Wakil, he did not give him the authority and the power enjoyed by Bahram Khan. Whatever the power and authority was given to Bahram Khan was not given to Sahabuddin Khan. Akbar divided Wakil's power among different ministers. Finance was entrusted to a newly created minister known as Diwan. This is a new position has been created. Under Akbar's successor, the Wakil's office lost its original importance. His office remained ornamented and he was not given any portfolio. The minister in charge of any organization was called Mir Bakshi, but he was not the commander-in-chief of the army. So the minister who looked after the personal needs of the emperor was called Khan-e-Saman. This is about that the personal needs of the emperor. His designation was Khan-e-Saman. The Sardar was in charge of the Department of Justice and Religious Affairs. So this is all about that the importance of the central administration and the central government during the period of Akbar. But the most important functions of the government were performed by the four principal ministers. These were the junior rank attached to the ministers. The main duties of the Diwan were to control the Department of Finance and Revenue. Diwan is very famous in many of the Hindi movies. Also, it has been given Diwan Sahab, and his duty is to take care of the finance and the revenue. He made the rules and regulations for the land revenue settlements also. Mir Bakshi was mainly concerned with the recruitment, maintenance, training, and inspection of the army. Diwan was related to finance and revenue. Mir Bakshi was duty was related to the recruitment, maintenance, and the training, as well as the inspection of the army. And he issued certificates regarding grants of mansabs, sanction of increments to the mansabdars, and branding of horses is also done by Mir Bakshi. Then it comes Khan e Saman. Khan e Saman was in charge of the royal household department. His main duties were to control the emperor's personal servants and look after the food stores, etc., and to meet the requirements of the princes and the prince and the princesses. So this is the work done. Work was given to Khan e Saman. So Diwan, Mir Bakshi, Khan e Saman. Then it comes about that Sardar e Sadur was to encourage Islamic learning and to give his verdict in case of conflicting interpretations of the Quranic law. He also granted scholarships, subsistence allowance, madade miyas to the Muslim saints. All the officials of judicial departments such as Qazi and Muftis were appointed by the emperor on his recommendations. So these were the part of the central administration. Some of the important posts were given by Akbar. After that, when he has taken back the charge of the Baram Khan as a chief of his central government and as a post of the Wakil, then he has removed this system, and in place of that, he has appointed Wazir, he has appointed Diwan, Mir Bakshi, Khan e Saman, Sadar e Sudur. All these, the new posts were created by him. So, this way, decentralization of work was. After this, the provincial administration was also very important part. After this central government, provincial government was also there. Which is also very important during the period of Akbar. Each province was divided into a number of units called sarkars. This is about the sarkars. The administration of the sarkars was carried on by a faujdar. And what was his duty? The duties were to maintain law and order in the sarkar. This provincial government is under the sarkar. And under this sarkar, the duties has been again divided. One is the Faujdar. Faujdar's duty is to maintain law and order in Sarkar, to maintain a small army and supervise the work of police, to guard the countryside by means of thanas, which had been set up in large numbers in the Sarkars. In the interest of efficiency of administration, the central government remained in touch with the Faujdars. There is now relationship between the Faujdars and the Sarkars and the central government in the interest of efficiency of administration. Then the central government remained in touch with Faujdars. The high officials of the central government often inspected his work. The work which is done by Faujdars in a very often manner, it has been checked and it has been taken care by the central government who sent the officer to check the work done by Fajdar. Below the Sarkar, another unit was known as Pargana. From the revenue point of view, it was a very important unit. Pargana was a very important unit. About that, the collection of, it is related to actually the collection of revenue. The government of the Pargana was carried on by three principal officers, which is the Shekdar, Amil, and Kanungo. These are the three officers. They work just like as now we have discussed about the Sarkar. Under this Sarkar, Fajdar were there. Then now coming to discuss about the Pargana as a provincial unit, how it works to take care of the administration. Under this Pargana, they have the three different officers who they are taking care. Under the Sarkar, only one Faujdar was there. Now here it is that the three different officers, they were Shikdar, Amil and Kanungo. Sikdar was the head of the Pargana. Then what was his duty? He maintained law and order in the Pargana, suppressed rebellions and punished the thieves. This is the power given to Sikdar. He was then another work, what he is doing, he is assisting Amil in the collection of revenue and the performance of his duties. So what is the duty of the Amil? Amil's duty is to collect revenue. Amil's duty is to collect revenue. And in his work, this help was provided by the Sakdar. The Amil was in charge of the revenue administration of the Pargana and maintained a direct link with the peasants. And this Amil, they have a direct link with the peasants, and his main duties were assessment and collection of the land revenue. Not only to collect, but the assessment of the land is also done by Amil. The treasurer of the Pargana was known as Potdar. This is the Potdar. He received money from the peasants and deposited it in the treasury. Now this is the work done by the Potdar, and his duty is to collect revenue from peasants. So there was a Chaudhary in each Pargana or Tappa who served as a link between the government officials and the peasants. Government official is Potdar, and between the peasants and the Potdar there is a Chaudhary, and his duty is to maintain the relation between the peasant and the government official. The Chaudhary and the Muqaddam received a fixed share of the land revenue collected by him. Whatever the revenue collection is done by Muqaddam or Chaudhary, they have to keep the fixed amount for themselves, and then rest has to be deposited in the king's treasury. It was generally 5% of the amount collected, which was called Panchotra at many places, means that the 5%. The village Patwari, head of the Patwaris in a Pargana, he supplied the government with records of crops, nature of land, assessment and collection of the land revenue. Even nowadays also Patidar is there, but nowadays it is the part of the government. They are the appointed officers by the government. During the Mughal period also Patidar, Patwaris were there. And nowadays also the work of the Patwari is the same what they were performing during the Mughal period. Even though the British period also Patwari's posts were the same. So this is the Patwari maintained all records concerning land ownership, assessment of land revenue. Then it comes about the Kanungo was the head of the Patwaris in the Pargana, and he supplied the government with records of crops, nature of land, assessment and collection of land revenue. It is interesting to note that the Suba of Lahore, each Doab was considered as a Sarkar which was divided into Parganas. This is actual that the administrative division during the Mughal period, how these Sarkars were formed, how the Parganas were divided on the basis of that the Doab. Doab means that the land between the rivers, nearby the rivers, which are the very fertile land of the Ganga and Yamuna Doab. The land, fertile land, agricultural land, which lies around this and on the surroundings, on the banks or in between that, the area. So this is all about that. Sometimes a Kanungo supervised land revenue work of more than of one Pargana. It depends upon that the Kanungo has given the in charge of how many Parganas. But in some cases, more than one Kanungo were appointed in a Pargana. But if suppose that the area or the territory is very big, then many Kanungo were, more than one or two is appointed in that particular Pargana. So there were fixed number were not there, that who is the in charge of or how many Kanungo were appointed in the Pargana. Then next it is about that the administration of justice. This is also very important, the role of played by the Qazi and the Muftis. So there was a court of Qazi in every important town. The Qazi was assisted by Mufti. The cases were decided according to the Quranic law. Whatever that the Quran provides the provision, according to the provisions or the law written in the Quran, that way only this work were done, proceeded by the Qazi or Mufti. The Mufti interpreted the law where the Qazi decided the cases. Interpretation was done by Mufti, decision was taken by Qazi. So most of the cases in the village provincial capital, there were three types of the courts: the Subedars or Nazim court, the Diwan's court, and the Qaji's court. Now the justice is also been divided into the three parts. This is the first one is the Subedar's court, Diwan's court, and the Qazi's court. The Najims, the court punish the breach of king's regulations. If suppose anyone try to break the laws made by the king, they are punished by the Najim's court, which is also known as the Subedar's court. Second, it comes about that it also heard appeals from the Faujdar and the Kotwals. Diwan heard only revenue cases, as their duty is to related to the finance. So he only hears about that the cases related to the revenue. Sadar-e-Sudur and some ministers of the at the center had judicial powers. Sadar-e-Sudur is having the judicial powers. The emperor's court was the final court of the whole empire for all types of the cases. To decide the army cases, there was a Qazi called the Qazi-e-Askar. Throughout the Mughal period, local traditions and customs were recognized. In civil cases, Hindus were allowed to govern by their customs and traditions. But this was the privileges given by the Mughals for the Hindu. Next is also about that the land revenue administration. So these are the gradual proceedings for that, the how the powers were decentralized, how the jurisdictions were divided, and which were the officers who were responsible for that. Abul Fazl described the land revenue as remuneration of sovereignty, a claim made by the ruler on his subjects for the protection he provided rather than as rent on the land that he owned. So this is very important about that. Abul Fazl has clearly written land as a rent, it has not been given to the king's treasury, but king is giving their support, protection to their citizens, to the people. So on that basis, as a return, this is the duty of the people to pay the revenue for the maintenance of the court, for the maintenance of the emperor. As in the earlier periods, land revenue was the main source of income of the state. It was but natural that the Mughal rulers paid special attention to the land revenue administration. This was only the main source of income. Akbar entrusted his revenue minister Diwan Todarmal with the job of recognizing the whole system. Todarmal was responsible during the period of Akbar related to the revenue collections. He made a series of experiments in this direction of the various system assessment of land revenue that worked during the Akbar's reign. This is the Jabti system. One is about the Jabti system, which is most important. According to this system, the area of cultivable land is possession of each cultivator was measured, and according to the measurement done by the standard gauge, this is the measuring scale for the land assessment, for the measurement of the land. Then what happened? A zarib made of piece of bamboo joined by iron rings, and it was used to measure the lands. This is the gauge of 41 digits, 33 inches. So this is about that, the length. Then it says that it replaced a hemp rope which was liable to shrink and expand in cold and hot weather respectively after measurement. Can you imagine about that? How that the technical things were used by them for the measurement of the land. So the accurate assessment can be done, the measurement and the production of the crop can be measured. So the average produce per bigha of each kind of land is respect of every crop based on the produce of the preceding 10 years was also taken into consideration. Means that the average assessment was also done. The state share was one third of the average produce. The state share one fixed in dams. One a rupee was equal to 40 dams or copper coins. The peasants were allowed to pay in cash or kind. In order to commute the state demand into cash, the empire was divided into a number of dasturs. Dasturs were used for that the cash payment of by the peasants. All places in dastur were supposed to have uniform prices of each kind of corn. Uniform system of that the weights and measurement and the quality of the crop. Suppose that the wheat is there, then the wheat is supposed to be sold by the peasants on the same price. The government also took into consideration the average of the actual prices of corn during the precedence of the 10 years. So besides this Japti system, which prevailed in a large part of the empire, was the two other system of assessment. One is that the Galabaks and the Kankut also prevailed at some places. So what is that the Galabaks system? When the crop was harvested and it was divided into three equal heaps. Three equal heaps has been made by the peasants. One of the three heaps was taken away by the government while the other two heaps were left to the peasants. So the three part is been done, three heaps has been done. One is taken for the government and the two is for the peasants. Under the Kankut system, an agreement was reached between the peasants and the government officials with regard to the general estimate of the expected yield of the crop while it was standing on its basis. The government realized one third of the agreed estimate during the rule of Akbar's successors, and the state share of land revenue was gradually increased. By the end of the 17th century, the state share rose to half. So this way, the system of revenue collection was also implemented or it was practiced during the period of the Mughal rulers. Now coming to discuss about that the imperial household, the emperor's house, the personal life. The term harem is frequently used to refer to domestic world of the Mughals, and it originates in the Persian word haram, meaning the sacred place. This is the meaning of this is sacred place. The Mughal household consisted of the emperor's wives and concubines, his near and distant relatives, mother, step and the foster mothers, sisters, daughters, daughters-in-law, aunts, children, etc., and the female servants and slaves. These all comes under the Mughal household. Polygamy was practiced widely in the Indian subcontinent, especially among the ruling groups. Both for the Rajput clans as well as the Mughal marriage was a way of cementing political relationship and forging alliances. Matrimonial alliances are done between the Mughals and the Rajputs. The gift of territory was often accompanied by the gift of a daughter in a marriage. Dowry was not there, but the gift was there. The daughter, whenever during the marriage of the daughter, the territory was been offered by the daughter's father to the bridegroom. This ensured a continuing hierarchical relationship between the ruling groups. It was through the link of marriage and the relationship that developed as a result that the Mughals were able to form a vast kinship network that linked them to important groups and helped to hold a vast empire together. This matrimonial alliances, it is a link of the marriage and the relationship. And what was the result of this, the marriage alliances? The Mughals were able to form a vast kinship network that linked them to important groups and helped them to hold the vast empire together. The Mughal household, a distinction was maintained between wives who came from royal families, were known as begums, and other wives, agas, who were not of the noble birth. The begums married after receiving huge amounts of cash and valuables as the dower, mahar, naturally received a higher status and greater attention from their husbands than did agas. So these were the two types of the begums were there. One is begum, another is the agas. Apart from wives, numerous male and female slaves populated the Mughal household. Other than the wives, male and female slaves were also there inside the Mughal household. After Noor Jahan, Mughal queens and the princesses began to control significant financial resources. Now their contribution in the running of the government, running of the administration. Shah Jahan's daughter Jahan and Roshan Ara enjoyed an annual income often equal to that of a high imperial mansabdars. Jahan in addition received revenues from the port city of Surat, which was a lucrative center of overseas trade. She participated in many architectural projects of Shah Jahan's new capital, Shah Jahanabad. The Bazaar of Chandni Chowk was designed by Jahan. This is the work done by Jahan, contribution of Jahan during the period of Shah Jahan. An interesting book giving us a glimpse into the domestic world of the Mughals is the Humayun Nama, written by Gulbadan Begum. Gulbadan was the daughter of Babur and Humayun's sister. Gulbadan could write fluently in Turkish and Persian. She described in great detail the conflicts and tensions among the princes and the kings and the important mediating role elderly women of the family played in resolving some of these conflicts. Not only that, she has described about that in great detail about the conflicts and the tensions, but the role played by the elderly women of the family, and they try to resolve the problems, resolve the conflicts, which were also highlighted by Gulbadan Begum. Now, the requirement of the imperial household, rank and the recruitment. One important pillar of the Mughal state was its crops officers. Akbar's imperial service, Turani and Iranian nobles, were present from the earliest phase of carving out a political dominion. Many had accompanied Humayun, others migrated later to Mughal court. The ruling groups of Indian origin entered the imperial services from 1560 onwards, the Rajputs and the Indian Muslims, Sheikhzadas. Indian Muslims were known as Sheikhzadas. The first to join was a Rajput chief was Raja Baharmal of Amber, to whose daughter Akbar got married. He was the first Rajput chief. He entered in the Mughal court. Members of Hindu caste inclined towards education and accountancy were also promoted. A famous example being Akbar's finance minister was Raja Todarmal. Iranians gained high offices under Jahangir, whose political influential queen Noor Jahan was an Iranian. This is about that, the facility. Because of that, the Noor Jahan, she herself was from Iran. So these officers got the political influence in the office of Jahangir, in the court of Jahangir. The keeping of exact and detailed records was a major concern of Mughal administration. The Mir Bakshi supervised the crops of court writers, that is, the Wakianavis, who record all applications and documents presented to the court and all imperial orders. This is the work done by Mir Bakshi. News reports and the important official documents traveled across the length and breadth of the regions under Mughal rule by imperial post. This is the imperial postal system was also working over there at that time, and it was the work done by them. Round the clock relays of foot runners, that is known as the Kasid or the Pathmar, carried papers rolled up in a bamboo containers. The emperor received reports from even distant provincial capitals within a few days. So this is the work done by the postal department working on that, the foot runners, with the help of the foot runners. And within the few days, the emperor was able to get the reports from the distant provincial capitals. Because of that, the Mughals were ruled in India with a very vast territory, right from Afghanistan, Kandahar, and all these the parts were ruled by them. The provision of functionaries, the division of functions established at the center was replicated in the provinces. Provinces were known as subas, where the ministers had their corresponding subordinates, that is, Diwan, Bakshi, and Sadr. The head of the provincial administration was the governor, who reported directly to the emperor. The sarkars into which each suba was divided. This is the very important thing which you have to understand. Right, just now also in the previous slide I was explaining about that. The division of functions established at the center. This year we are talking about that how the central government, they are giving the discharging the duties, they are decentralizing the duties to the provincial government. The head of the provincial administration was the governor, which was known as Subedar, who reported directly to the emperor. The sarkars into which each suba was divided often overlapped with the jurisdiction of faujdars. Faujdars were the commandants who were deployed with the contingents of heavy cavalry and musketeers in the districts. The local administration was looked after at the level of the Pargana sub-district by three semi-hereditary officers, the Kanungo, the keeper of the revenue records, Chaudhry in charge of the revenue collection, and the Kaji. This is learning about the religion. Ibadat Khana, hall of worship at Fatehpur Sikri, hold debates and discussion with religious teachers. This is the importance of Ibadat Khana. Deen-e-Ilahi, one God, simple path, worship the sun, fire, Sulah Akul, universal peace. This is actually during the period of Akbar, it has been started. And the Mughal emperor, they were following this Sulah-e-Kul. Now the question comes about that, what was Sharia? It is Islamic law. In how many books the Akbarnama is divided? Akbarnama is divided into 3 books. The third book is known as the Akbarnama, which Mughal emperor began the practice of Jharokha Darshan. The answer is Jharokha Darshan, Akbar. What was his objectives behind this? What was the objective behind this? According to Jharokha Darshan actually, emperor appeared on a small balcony facing the east, giving a view to crowds of people standing below. Its objective was to broadening the acceptance of the imperial authority as part of popular faith. So this is about that. Which Mughal emperor began the practice of Jharokha Darshan? It's a very simple answer, Akbar. And what was its objective? Why this was started by Akbar? According to this Jharokha Darshan, emperor appeared on a small balcony facing the east, giving a view to crowds of people who they were standing below over there to take a look of their emperor. Its objective was to broadening the acceptance of the imperial authority as part of popular faith. So the people, they have their trust, their belief in their authority. So this is all about the questions of this chapter. Along with this, the entire detailed description. Very interesting, very detailed chapter. And all about that, the entire Mughal period has been explained in this chapter. With that, the contribution of that, all the six important Mughal rulers in this chapter, along with that, the descriptions given by Abul Fazl, especially in the context of Akbar as a great emperor of the Mughal dynasty. That's all.